Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a stack of sources all about Chinese IT,
Okay.
specifically focusing on something surprisingly central: input methods.
Right. We're talking about the software that lets you, type on your phone or computer, basically how you get your thoughts into the digital world. In China, this isn't just a standard function. It's a major area of innovation.
Yeah, and our sources reveal it's driven by some pretty fascinating forces, like the rise of internet slang, huge leaps in AI, and a deep-seated cultural preference for voice communication.
Exactly. Our mission today is to understand the why. Why are people choosing third-party input methods over the built-in options? How are voice and AI fundamentally changing user interaction? And what does this maybe tell us about technology's direction, potentially, beyond the smartphone era?
All right, let's unpack what the sources have to say. So first off, maybe for people who aren't familiar, what is an input method exactly, especially in a language like Chinese with complex characters?
Yeah.
Well, think of it as the system, the brain maybe, that translates your keystrokes or sounds into characters. For languages like Japanese, with kanji conversion, or Chinese, where one key doesn't equal one character, this software is absolutely essential. It predicts, suggests, converts based on what you put in.
Got it. And the sources highlight that many people in China aren't just using the default one. They're actively downloading and installing third-party alternatives. Why bother? Why go through that trouble?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The biggest draws, according to the sources, are the significantly more advanced voice input capabilities and the deeper integration of AI features that these third-party apps offer.
So it's really not just about typing anymore, is it?
Oh, far from it. Especially for younger generations, voice input is becoming incredibly popular. It's often just faster and more convenient than typing pinyin. And this isn't just some tech trend happening in a vacuum. It connects directly to a long-standing cultural inclination towards voice communication in China.
That's a key difference, right, compared to other places. The sources mention how common WeChat voice messages are, almost like sending quick audio notes instead of typing everything out.
Exactly. That familiarity, that comfort level with voice communication provides really fertile ground for adopting voice assistants and smart speakers. These aren't just like isolated gadgets. They're integrated into everyday devices, like Xiaomi TVs, the sources mention. You can use voice for specific commands, turn on TV at 7 a.m., find superhero movies, skip 30 seconds. Voice just works really intuitively for hands-free interaction, especially with devices you're not constantly typing on. And this cultural embrace of voice has pushed companies to invest massively in accuracy. iFlytek, for instance, a major player here, has boasted incredibly high recognition rates, close to 98%, I think, at least in ideal, quiet conditions.
Okay, but what about the real world? It's noisy out there. Does voice input still work reliably?
That's precisely where AI and machine learning really earn their keep. Yeah. They're trained to filter out background noise by focusing on the distinct characteristics of the human voice waveform. And one source highlighted a particularly innovative feature iFlytek introduced back in 2020, using the front camera for lip reading assist.
Lip reading. Get out!
Seriously, it combines what the AI hears with the visual information from your lip movements. The idea is to boost accuracy dramatically in loud environments.
Lip reading integrated into your keyboard app. That's pretty wild.
It really is. And AI's role extends well beyond just better transcription. It's powering some incredibly practical, high-impact application.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so the sources use Alibaba's Cainiao logistics arm. They use AI assistants to make automated calls to customers about package deliveries. What's impressive is the AI doesn't just read a script. It understands the human's replies. It can navigate conversations about rescheduling, find alternative drop-off points like public lockers, and then relay that information back to the human delivery person.
So it can genuinely converse, handle variations in the dialogue, like that back and forth example in the source material.
Yes, exactly. That dialogue is a perfect illustration. The AI shows remarkable patience. It deals with interruptions, tangential questions, but still guides the call to a resolution. This kind of AI assistant was apparently invaluable during the pandemic, too, used for automated health status checks or efficiently contacting huge numbers of people for, say, vaccine appointments.
Wow. That must save an enormous amount of human labor.
Absolutely. It allows companies, organizations to scale interactions to tens, even hundreds of thousands of calls, something just impossible with human staff alone, right? Now, while voice is rapidly gaining ground, traditional pinyin input, where you type the romanized pronunciation of characters, that's still the most widely used method.
Right, but isn't typing out something like "ni shuo de dui" just to get the characters? Isn't that a bit cumbersome?
It can be, yeah, especially for common phrases. And that's where a major innovation in pinyin input comes in, abbreviation and completion. Instead of typing the full pinyin, you can often just type the first letter of each pinyin syllable in a phrase. So for nisho de dedui, you just type NSDD, and the input method suggests the full phrase or the correct characters.
Ah, okay. So NSDD is essentially a text shortcut. Makes sense.
Exactly. And the shortcut feature is, well, it's tightly woven into the explosion of internet slang in China.
Okay, that's an interesting connection. How does a typing shortcut actually fuel the development of slang?
Well, think about phrases that became popular, maybe online or in gaming communities, like Yong Yuan de Shen. It means eternal god or godlike, used to really praise someone, especially in esports for pro players. People started typing the pinyin abbreviation yards, but then instead of converting it to characters, they just left it as yards.
Oh, so the abbreviation became the slang term itself. It stopped being just a shortcut to the characters and became the term instead of the characters.
Precisely. That's what the sources suggest. It originated on places like the video site Bilibili, then quickly spread across social media like Douyin, which is, China's TikTok.
Hmm.
Other examples mentioned are XOL from Xiao Si Wole, meaning something like hilarious or literally laughed myself to death. And yeah, NASDD from S Nishuo Dedui. You are correct.
And the sources suggest this slang is getting increasingly complex, almost intentionally difficult.
Some examples certainly seem that way, like NBC's, which just uses English initials for nobody cares. Easy enough. But then there's the really wild one, BBL. Apparently comes from kikire, meaning please or I beg you. That sounds similar to S, which means ball alo, and that gets abbreviated to BBL.
Whoa, okay, that's layers.
Right. The complexity seems partly playful, maybe partly to create these in-group identifiers, exclude older users or people not in the know.
It's like a linguistic puzzle built on top of the text, a secret code.
It really is. And, this isn't entirely new. The sources point out older slang like, for young women. That came from yay, which itself was a clever character substitution for the earlier term, They even give a little history from the formal sai in the Mao era to you, which got negative associations, to the bland use the maybe too familiar you, eventually leading to and its abbreviation.
Huh. And even common official terms get this treatment, right? Like WeChat or Weixin becoming W or Alipay Zifubao becoming ZFB in everyday text.
Exactly. This whole culture of abbreviation thrives because the pinyin input methods make it just so easy. But input innovations aren't limited to voice or typing. The sources also detail some pretty impressive handwriting features.
Handwriting. On a phone screen, does anyone actually still use that much?
Occasionally, yeah. Especially maybe for a character someone doesn't know the pinyin for. The innovation here is how incredibly forgiving and efficient the handwriting recognition has become. You don't need perfect stroke order, apparently. Some apps, like Baidu's, let you write continuously without lifting your finger, recognizing parts of characters as you draw them. You can even switch to handwriting mid-pinyin input if you hit a character you're unsure how to type.
Wait, you could just draw a character right in the middle of typing pinyin?
Yeah, seamlessly integrated. And one source even mentioned a beta feature.
Yeah.
Get this. Letting you write characters in the air with your finger, using the camera to recognize them.
Okay, that is pushing the boundary. So, okay. These third-party apps offer sophisticated voice with AI, clever pinyin shortcuts enabling slang, advanced handwriting. This is clearly way more than just a different font or theme. But what's the big picture?
Yeah.
Why is this a massive business?
Well, because input methods are arguably the most frequently used piece of software on a smartphone. Think about it. Every time you type, speak, maybe even handwrite, you're using one. That gives these apps immense strategic value. Beyond just offering, cute skins or emojis, they are absolutely central to user interaction.
What kind of value are we talking about, though?
Well, they can act as gateways to other services, quick links to translation, maybe OCR scanning, things like that. But the most significant asset, according to the sources, is the data they collect. Analyzing what people are typing and saying gives companies incredible real-time insights into trends, interests, even like collective sentiment. It's a goldmine for market understanding, advertising, service development, much richer than just looking at search queries.
So it's like getting a direct feed into the nation's digital conversations, a real-time pulse.
Precisely. And this is why the competition is so fierce among the main players. You've got Sogou, now part of Tencent, the old giant. Then there's iFlytek, known for voice accuracy, and Baidu, leveraging its huge AI strength. They're all fighting for that central position on your device. And this whole intense focus on how we input information, it points towards a larger technological shift that the sources touch on. The Baidu founder, Li Yanhong, suggested around 2019 that the previous decade was defined by increasing dependence on the smartphone screen. But the next decade, he thought, might be about reducing that dependency.
A post-smartphone era, is that the idea?
That's the concept, yeah. Well, no one knows exactly what comes next. Interfaces like voice and wearables, especially things like wireless earphones, they seem like strong candidates because they allow us to interact with technology without constantly looking down at a screen, which frees us up to do other things, walk, work, engage with the actual physical world around us.
Right, you could be getting information or sending messages using just your voice, totally hands-free, eyes up.
Exactly. And China's proactive innovation in voice interaction may be accelerated by their existing cultural preferences. It might just be showing us a preview of what that next generation of human-computer interface could look like.
Wow. Okay, so we've journeyed from the simple idea of a keyboard to the complexities of AI-powered phone calls, the surprising origins of internet slang, even futuristic handwriting recognition, all seen through the lens of input methods in China.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful illustration of how these fundamental tools can evolve into platforms for incredible technological and cultural shifts.
And it really prompts us to look at our own habits, doesn't it? The sources mention Japan's distinct preference for text, avoiding voice calls. Why such different cultural norms around communication and tech? Could understanding these nuances open up totally different avenues for development elsewhere?
It certainly raises an important question. Are we, maybe in other places, constrained by sticking too rigidly to familiar methods, like text-based communication? Are we missing opportunities?
So maybe for you, our listener, the provocative thought for this deep dive is this. Try consciously using voice input more often today. Or just, observe how much of your own digital communication is text versus voice. Does the path China is forging with voice and AI suggest a future interface we might all eventually adopt?
Think about it. How much more connected, maybe, yet less screen-bound could you be if you could talk to your devices as naturally as you currently text them?
Definitely a lot to think about. That's all for this deep dive. See you next time.